237 aid trucks enter El Auja and Karam Abu Salim border crossings in preparation for their entry into the Gaza Strip. US President Donald Trump's proposal to assume control of Gaza and resettle its population sparked widespread condemnation across the Middle East and internationally. And NBC News reports US Department of Defense is working on plans to withdraw all American troops from Syria. It's exactly 4 p.m. local time and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Gaza. A total of 237 aid trucks have entered the El Auja and Karam Abu Salim border crossings today in preparation for their entry into the Gaza Strip. Among them, 24 trucks carried fuel supplies, according to Al Qahira news correspondent. US President Donald Trump has said the United States will take control of the Gaza Strip after Palestinians are resettled elsewhere. Trump unveiled his surprise plan without providing specifics at a joint press conference with visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The announcement followed Trump's shock proposal earlier for the permanent resettlement of Palestinians from Gaza to neighboring countries, calling the enclave, where the first phase of a fragile ceasefire is in effect, a demolition site.
Destroy buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply.
Palestinian has rejected US President Donald Trump's proposal to take over the Gaza Strip and resettle Palestinians elsewhere. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said he will not allow the rights of his people, for which they have struggled for decades, to be infringed upon. Abbas stressed that the Gaza Strip is an integral part of the Palestinian land alongside the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Permanent representative of Palestine to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, has rejected Donald Trump's proposal that the United States take over the Gaza Strip and permanently resettle its Palestinian residents. Mansour commented that their country and home is the Gaza Strip and it is part of Palestine. He also pointed out that massive 400,000 Palestinians who returned to northern Gaza after the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire went into effect.
Homeland is our homeland. If part of it is destroyed, the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people selected the choice to return to it. In 2 days, in a span of...
Egypt has reaffirmed Egypt's position is firm on the importance of rebuilding the Gaza Strip. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has stated Cairo continues its efforts to ensure full implementation of the ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip and the exchange of detainees. Palestinian group Hamas has condemned US President Donald Trump's remarks over an American takeover of war-ravaged Gaza and the displacement of its inhabitants. Hamas urged Washington to walk back Trump's statement and asked regional and international organizations to take a strong stance that preserves the national rights of Palestinians. Trump unveiled his surprise plan without providing specifics at a joint press conference on Tuesday with visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Arab League has reiterated that Gaza and the West Bank should remain united as the future territory of a Palestinian state. In a statement, the League emphasized the necessity for the Palestinian people to secure their legitimate rights to establish an independent state based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the capital. The Arab League also condemned both proposals for the displacement of Palestinians, warning that such actions would lead to further instability and would undermine the prospects for achieving a two-state solution. Saudi Arabia has said it would not establish ties with Israel without the creation of a Palestinian state. The statement from the Saudi Foreign Ministry said Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has affirmed the kingdom's position as a clear and explicit manner that does not allow for any interaction under any circumstances. The statement also said that Saudi Arabia also rejects any attempts to displace the Palestinians from their land, adding that its stance towards the Palestinians is unnegotiable. The King of Jordan, Abdullah II, has stressed to the Palestinian president the necessity of achieving a just and comprehensive peace based on the two-state solution, leading to the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. The King of Jordan has stated that the settlement must stop, and any attempt to annex lands and displace Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank must be rejected. King Abdullah also stressed the need to keeping Palestinians on their land and added his country's firm, full support for Palestinians in achieving their legitimate rights. And for more analysis on the situation, we now move on to Hani Saif in our newsroom. Hani?
Thank you, Rana. And for further analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Mr. Mohammed Izzuddin, the Ahram Managing Editor. Mr. Izzuddin, welcome to Qnews. Now, how does the international community, including Arab states and human rights organizations, view the American proposal to take control of Gaza and facilitate the displacement of its Palestinian residents?
Certainly, as we've all seen, the global denunciation of such statements and comments and some talks reveals that unrealistic and it's about fantasy, but settlement of fantasy. Such statements are way of the norms of diplomacy and respecting the sovereignty of the stateholds. In addition, that would lead to the weakening of the world peace and security, in addition to the eliminated the Palestinian cause as a whole. Such statements and considered are odds do not describe the officials who talked that it is ridiculous or a joke or unrealistic, but shouldn't have gone out of the president of the U.S., particularly that the U.S. is playing a role, and a very important role, sponsoring the peace and the sustainability of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. such a statement seems that an attempt to revive of the century project that was rejected by the Palestinians and Egypt and all the international community. And this time the US wishes to intervene directly to control the lands and taking advantage of it economically, and the deportations of the Palestinians to other countries, which means the elimination of the Palestinian cause. Certainly, they are unacceptable statements, and there is a commitment of response in the diplomatic arenas and politically. If they are taken so seriously.
Well, Mr. Izzeddin, I mean, we are talking about, so far it's a suggestion, it's a statement, but what are the potential long-term consequences of this suggestion for resettling Palestinians from Gaza? How could it impact the regional stability as a whole?
It would jeopardize the regional stability and would lead or ignite more tensions and escalations of violence in the region. The Palestinians wouldn't accept they taking them out of their homeland. The Palestinian cause is an issue of statehood, and what's happening now is the attempt of taking control of the land and do not serve any parts of the region, and would harm the mental image of the United States as a sponsor of the peace process. There is a great international rejection to such statements, and the UN said that it isn't acceptable to deport the Palestinians from their homeland. Egypt's stance is unwavering since October 2023, and advocated of the calm and to pursue in the peace process. This statement damages the ceasefire deal, particularly some statements related to the completion of the phases of the deal agreement in reaching the return of the Palestinians to their homelands. And if they not returned, once again, I think it would damage the international peace and to the Palestinians, and do not serve each party, including the United States itself. Certainly, such statements would serve or rather in favor of Israel and serving the expansion, settlement, and the far right wing and Netanyahu himself, and it is an opportunity to complete the plans of liquidate the Palestinian cause and the completion of the settlement expansion in the West Bank, not only in Gaza Strip.
Yes, well, sir, how does Israel's framing of the US proposal as voluntary migration compare to the Palestinian and global reactions, especially regarding the concerns of ethnic cleansing?
Certainly, European stance along the presidents of European countries denounced such strange statements and unlogic. In addition to the United Nations and the international community, the European Union is a great partner of the peace process, along with Egypt, and the mediators have a great role to complete the status of the ceasefire deals and the return of the Palestinians to their homelands, and then to start in the phases of reconstruction in reaching to the negotiations of the establishment of the two-state solutions, and that's what's been agreed upon. And I think it is the realistic and feasible solution that would lead to peace. But talking about taking over the Palestinian territories from the American side and transfer it to Rivera in the Middle East and taking the Palestinian out of their homeland. And I think there are an unrealistic statement and suggestion do not serve the peace of the process, and there is an outrage internationally, and I think the United Nations, the European Union, partners of the peace, on top of which Egypt certainly denounces the deportation of the Palestinians and advocated to complete the fetus of the ceasefire deal, in addition to the delivery of the humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, and to start into new negotiation following the ceasefire, and to empower the Palestinians to run and govern the Gaza Strip and working on the peace process and the reconstruction. This is the logic.
Yes. That was from Cairo, Mr. Mohammed Ezzedine, the Al Ahram managing editor. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. Rana, back to you.
Thank you very much, Hani. And now we move on to the UN has said Trump's immoral Gaza plan includes international crime. The UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory, Francesca Albanese, has stated that Trump's plan is unlawful, immoral, and completely irresponsible. She added that this will make the regional crisis even worse. She also said that the international community is made up of 193 states, and this is the time to give the US what it has been looking for: isolation. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has described the meeting between US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington as important and productive. Herzog also referred to a possible inclusive Middle East deal, saying that he hopes to be able to see many more Arab countries join the circle of peace with Israel. But Herzog sidestepped the most controversial statement that came after the meeting between Trump and Netanyahu regarding Trump's plan to take over the Gaza Strip and resettle its Palestinian residents.
The hostage deal and the need to complete the deal, especially the commitment.
British Foreign Minister David Lammy has said it should be ensured that Palestinians have a future in their homeland. Speaking during a news conference during a trip to Kiev, Lammy reiterated the UK's stance on a two-state solution. He added that the most important that to see Palestinians live and prosper in their homelands in Gaza and the West Bank.
In their homeland.
Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said the people of Gaza should be allowed home. As he faced questions from members of parliament, Starmer said Palestinians must be allowed home, must be allowed to be rebuilt, and the UK should be with them in that rebuild on the way to the two-way solution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remember when that rhetoric used to come from.
Germany has firmly rejected US President Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza and permanently resettle its Palestinian population in other countries. German Foreign Minister Baerbock has criticized US President Donald Trump's controversial comments, saying Gaza, like the West Bank and East Jerusalem, should be part of future Palestinian state. Baerbock said in a statement that a negotiated two-state solution remains the only path forward that would ensure Palestinians and Israelis can live in peace, security, and dignity. France has rejected comments by US President Donald Trump saying it would violate international law and destabilize the region. Foreign Minister spokesman said in his statement, France reiterates its opposition to any forced displacement of the Palestinian people of Gaza, which would constitute a serious violation of international law, an attack on the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinians, but also a major obstacle to the two-state solution. He added that the future of Gaza should be in the context of a future Palestinian state and should not be controlled by a third country. Spain's foreign minister has rebuked US President Donald Trump's plan for the US to seize control of Gaza while sending the Palestinians there to other countries. José Manuel Albers told the news conference in Madrid, Gaza is the land of the Palestinian Gazans and they must stay in Gaza. He added that Gaza is part of a future Palestinian state, which Spain is committed to. China has opposed forced transfer targeting the people of Gaza Strip. During a regular press briefing, a ministry spokesperson said that China hopes all parties will take ceasefire and post-conflict governance as an opportunity to bring the Palestinian issue back on the right track of political settlement based on a two-state solution.
我们反对针对加沙民众的强制迁移，希望有关各方以加沙停火和战后治理为契机，推动巴勒斯坦问题重回以两国方案为基础政治解决的正确轨道，实现。
Brazilian President Lula da Silva has rejected US President Donald Trump's proposal to take over the Gaza Strip. The Brazilian leader also said in an interview that no country, no matter how important, can fight the entire world all the time. Lula said it makes no sense and this is something incomprehensible to any human being defending a two-state solution and repeating earlier denunciation of Israel's military action in Gaza as a genocide. Russia has stated it believes a settlement in the Middle East is only possible on the basis of a two-state solution. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said so after US President Donald Trump said he would like the United States to take over and redevelop the Gaza Strip. Trump, who has previously proposed a permanent resettlement of more than 2 million Palestinians from Gaza to neighboring countries, said Gaza could become the Riviera of the Middle East. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has Canberra's support of a two-state solution in the Middle East following US President Donald Trump's shock announcement of plans to take over the Gaza Strip. Albanese said during a news conference in Canberra that Australia's position is the same as it was this morning, as it was last year, and as it was 10 years ago.
And a bipartisan basis, a two-state solution in the Middle East.
Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has met with top Palestinian officials visiting Cairo. Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati received Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa and Secretary General of Fatah Central Committee Jibril Rajoub. During the meeting with Mustafa, Abdulati emphasized Egypt's stance in supporting the Palestinian people. As for updates in Syria, NBC News reported that the U.S. Department of Defense is working on plans to withdraw all American troops from Syria. Officials at the U.S. Department of Defense stated that Donald Trump and close aides recently expressed interest in pulling U.S. forces out of Syria, promoting Pentagon officials to begin drafting plans for a full withdrawal within 30, 60, or 90 days. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we have been covering. 237 trucks enter Al-Auja and Karam Abu Salim border crossings in preparation for the entry into the Gaza Strip. US President Donald Trump's proposal to assume control of Gaza and resettle its population sparks widespread condemnation across the Middle East and internationally. And NBC News reports US Department of Defense is working on plans to withdraw all American troops from Syria. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.